I welcome Mallikarjuna Tunga, sir, for this podcast. This is a kind of a podcast where I'm not just doing with somebody who is like a walking documentation of Azure. Trust me, many people who have sat in this session told me this, and I really admire him because of the fact that he gives 150% for every session. He doesn't care whether there's one person sitting or else 100 people sitting. He wants everybody to get influenced by the way he has been learning. And trust me, is the most approachable person. And many a times, a lot of times we fail in delivering us as the best. Like I might be hosting a session and I might not be able to deliver myself as the best. He doesn't care about it. See, when you're really educating people, you think about these aspects. Trust me, your goals might be something different. And he's not a kind of a person who thinks of like, I need money from here, I need money from there. Lot of community talks. Trust me, he has exams and he has a lot of community talks to be given also. And I don't know how he manages it, but I'm deeply honored to have him on this podcast. Trust me, one of the most versatile engineers that I have met. And don't miss this podcast because this is going to teach you how to be the right professional for the tomorrow's world, which is rapidly changing. And I welcome Mallikarjuna Tunga, sir. Thank you so much for giving
Thank
this
you, Vishwas.
podcast. Means a lot to me.
Yeah, same here.
Yes, you're now a cloud solution architect, but that's a different story right now. It has nothing to do with whatever you were as a student. So I want to understand how was the same Mallikarjun sir as a student, because most of the time, this is the point where we tend to understand, okay, this is my niche and I want to work for it. So what was your niche when you were like 15, 20 years old? That's my question.
I'm from the Andhra Pradesh. I grew up and I studied most of my studies in the Kadapa district. I'm local to Kadapa. That is now called as YSR Kadapa now, renamed. Where I completed all my education there only. I think it all started after 10th. I heard there is a rumor there is a computer subject in in intermediate. Then I went on filling up the application. I was I picked up the computers. It was tend to be not the MPC or BPC. It was vocational. It was a computer science and engineering. So it is the vocational course. That is where it triggered me. As they started learning, I think after the 10th, then I started looking at the floppy disks. The 4 MB floppy disk that was there at that time. And then we started looking at the computer. I think at my age of, I think I'm talking about, I completed my 98 and 99. I'm talking about 99, the age of 99. Yeah, year 99, I started looking into the computers. That time, I think we learned, what is that? Excel was not there. Prior to Excel, there was, these office tools were there. We learned those office tools there and we had a project in that. So it is like a vocational course with which has a computer science and engineering. That is where my journey started. And then I moved on to the bachelor's into computer science. Then I moved into masters of the computer science. Everything, all education, I guess I have the into computers more of 2, 3 plus 2. This kind of education which I have more into computers. I was not sitting in the even when I went to the bachelor's of computer science in the degree. I was not attending the mathematics class or science classes. Lecturers used to argue with me. So I was all the time I was sitting and developing the games in sitting in the lab, computer labs. So basically, I'm not the the MPC guy who doesn't know math, but I'm not I'm weak in mathematics. Obviously, will not be understanding the complete mathematics course in the Bachelor of Computer Science. So that's how my journey all started. It was quite fun, and I was the lab in charge for during my first year. I've been recognized in my college that I have some potential in. So I set up entire lab for my degree college and developing the programs. So that is where the journey was quite. I was one running the projects. I was getting the projects done for my all peers in the degree college. Then the MSc was here and there. It went on. So that's all about the education. It went like that. So it's all about my journey into computers. That is where the interest driven me there. I started. I went to Chennai, learned few other technologies, to start with the career. I think one of the IBM products were quite popular at that time. We got some training and opportunity to work with HCL. Then I went to Singapore to work with the bank. Then after working with HCL, I joined again IBM. Then after IBM, worked with Bank of America for the product-based company. Then I'm working here in Qatar for Qatar Airways. So that's how the journey which I've done so far. I'm the guy who came from computers. From the you see my background, into computer guy basically. This is all about me. I'm currently in Qatar. Also, I'm the resident of Bangalore, the Kerpuram. Soon we'll be meeting there, and we'll be running few other Azure Bangalore Dev community events.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times when we are in this professional world, we get overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed in such a way that like we forget that we are supposed to be a future ready developer, and we are stuck with the job which we have. Trust me, a lot of people who have literally joined hands with me in some other things like papers and things like that are now not able to write it. You know why some people think that this is a very mad field of research and things like that? Because they can't really give that time. But I don't see that reason in you. Trust me, I don't see that reason in you. Any time, like I'll be very frank with you guys. Anytime I ask him for a session, he might say me as an exam, but he will obviously give me some other slot somehow, or else he will be having some other session in some other community. And I feel so proud that people like you are like helping a lot of people like me to understand what is this tech and all. So I want to understand, like, how do you manage your professional and your community hustle that you are putting in right now? That's a huge hustle that you're putting in, no less than any developer advocate, no less than any developer advocate who is putting in his work. So yeah, I want to understand, how are you managing all these things?
I know it is tough, sometimes I'm facing little quality challenges when I'm doing such things. So I need to slow down, definitely. But yes, I think this since last year, I thought of starting doing this community, not most of the things are packed together. You need to, let's say if you're a developer or an infrastructure guy, you want to do something, you need to find many things, you will not get a complete package when you are trying to do some things. So that is where I thought of putting it together. When it comes to us, if a person is trying to look at me, there should be a complete package. Yes, I'm looking at this video, in this current world, you have multiple videos. We get confused what need to be watched, when you are trying to read something, when you're trying to learn something, then you need to go here and there. So that is what I'm trying to avoid when I'm trying to educate the people. So it's going to be a complete package when you come here. Yes, I fulfilled today, learned something new. So when I'm talking about any topic, and that topic should be covered as much as I can, so that you don't need to go and look any other references. Maybe you need to go and do a deep dive by doing a practical or by developing something. Yes, that is up to everyone. It may not be my environment. Each and every single environment will be different. Even in a single company, the dev is different, stage is different, and production is different. The same piece of code may not be working in any of the, as I said, any person is not the same, unless it is a duo born from the same mother. Even still, they have a different blood groups, right? So it's the same. So even I give my piece of code, it's a different. So that is where I'm trying to give. Yes, of course, it's difficult to find the time, but yeah, I most of the time now I'm the potato couch sitting on the sofa and doing all these things right now for past 3-4 months. Most of the time Netflix is running there in the TV, and I'll not be looking it, but unless there is a scene coming up, but ears are there and mind is sitting in the front of my laptop and trying to do things. So that's how I'm trying to manage. Yeah, and when I was doing things and I found out, this is where we need to do some certifications, to industry recognized certifications. Yeah, and I'm also doing that. I think I've given a break for that. So for some time now, maybe in the next year now, I'll start again. I think most of the 13 to 14 certifications already have. So I just want to give it a break. People are also, vexed so many certifications, even I'm posting it. So that's how it is. Yes, as I said, definitely we should give the better when we are giving to the community. The quality session should be a quality session, which I believe in. So that's what I'm trying to put in all my best
Yeah,
to the
I know
community.
that's true. That's true because a lot of times when we understand what is that brief understanding that is required, let me just say, forget Terraform. Terraform is the newest way of putting in words and as an
Yeah.
infrastructure and saying
Terraform is the
this
newest
and
way.
that. And there is Pulumi, which is coming up, which is doing amazing in terms of like infrastructure as code. Like .NET developers who literally told, I am not able to get the access to the infrastructure. Now they are having an access to the infrastructure. So I just want to understand, like, you have seen this world of development which has grown very rapidly, actually. There was monolithic, there was serverless, all of the sudden, no, not serverless,
Yeah,
microservices, then serverless, all of the sudden.
microservice architecture.
Adapting for this technology, I think you have seen a lot of firms which adapted very quickly also, and you also had a lot of case studies where you have also seen why companies didn't adapt and they're still running in monolithic. So I want to understand, like, what did you see in this world of development that is actually rapidly growing? Is it the purpose of building something with this less costlier, or is it something like we want to build a new solution? What is that all about? Because on future, let me be an entrepreneur, let me be a person who is going to be in an enterprise, and I'm going to architect a solution. I want to know your perspective in the way you saw the rapid change. That's my question.
Yeah. The when it comes to now, yeah, we have seen monolithic, and then we have seen architectures. I think the last 5 years we were trying to put into microservice architectures, the containers, right? The Docker containers. Many technologies came. But right now, I think to support the microservice architectures, the few of the technologies like the Kubernetes or the OpenShift, or to the managed operators like AKS, right? These are now quietly matured. So that is where the most of the the teams, the Microsoft Teams runs on AKS. Now the Spring Cloud runs on Kubernetes architectures. These were the applications are running now in the microservice architectures most of the time. I think in soon in another 2-3 years, then we will forget about what is running behind. Now we currently we're talking about let's say the Kubernetes cluster, what it is going to run, how you are going to manage. Now going further in the coming in 2 years, we'll forget about what is running behind. We'll be looking into the only just the piece of code. You just to go and run the piece of code. It's not but serverless architecture, where you run your piece of, you have to concentrate on what is your code. So that is how it is. I think in another 5 years, which in upcoming 5 years, we'll be forgetting about what kind of infrastructure we will be running this piece of code. So that is where I see, and definitely DevOps is going to do. It's going to be a powerful, DevOps. When I say DevOps, it's a kind of a tools and techniques. It's not a DevOps; it's a culture which need to be brought into the organization soils. As you see, when it comes to monolithic architecture, developer may develop some code, and the ops team may do their own, what kind of a CR approval process. It's kind of different soils where we have today. I think most of the organizations are already quite catching up. And if you see the most job opportunities right now into DevOps, the DevOps SRE. DevOps SRE is nothing but we need to monitor things, monitoring, doing the operations, plus having these tools and techniques and practices to how to adapt the changes and put to the time to the market. How quickly we can deploy these changes. There is no point now. Let's say this, but for example, today in the real world scenario, let's say Bengaluru has affected with the COVID red. It has to be declared as a red zone. So what is the point if you're declaring the red zone as a after 2 days? If you have a government portal and you want to declare that as a red zone after 2 days, what is the point? So that is how DevOps helps, to quickly deploy those changes into the real-time world. So that is where it definitely helps the organizations. It helps the people, communities to get to know things. It is either we are doing a business. Let's say you are running any corporation and you want to have changes on your corporation or any other public websites. So that is where these DevOps comes into picture, and we need to adapt. That is the one all to all I would like to say from a suggestion from me. So it is nothing. I mean, most of the times I get the, on the LinkedIn request, or what is this dev and ops? So what tools need to be learned, So people are all confused to how to get journey, when it comes to DevOps. As I said, it is a tools and tech. When we talk about 5 years back, there's a big data. If you see the big data tools, you will have 500 tools. People was confused 3-4 years back. The same thing now, when we talk about DevOps, there are many other tools. I think the DevOps tools, when you talk about Jenkins, now Azure DevOps is catching quite most of the time. It supports most of all the tools. Even you can run the Jenkins task. So that is how the DevOps, and then what you call the other 5 years, which I'm seeing in. So you will be what infrastructure we will be running on your piece of code. That is how I see.
Yeah, I want to understand this approaches that we are giving today, because a lot of times when we see the tools, you talked about tools, you talked about culture of DevOps and the things like that. SRE also you talked about. But a lot of the time when we hear such things, right, we get overwhelmed by the fact that there is this many amount of tools existing.
Yeah.
And
That is the
there are hundreds
current
and
market.
hundreds of approaches that are given by every company. Like probably there are people who started as monolithic, then migrated to serverless, then like even worse scenario, there has been serverless in their infrastructure, but yet their performance was monolithic. And I want to understand, like, what are the approaches that we are giving today? Is it like really feasible in order to understand the complexity of building such kind of an sturdy and a complex secure system? Because DevOps and security is now combining together. It's kind of a DevSecOps today. So I want to understand, like, are we just giving the right approaches today, or else what should be our next approach for every sturdy architecture that we are planning to build?
Yes, DevSecOps is nothing but, I mean, when you talk about DevSecOps, most of the time we need to ensure that what we are trying to deploy, or the practice which we are putting in, when it comes to, for example, if you're passing the plain password, let's say you're doing something, you have a configuration file where you have the passwords in it, so that is where how do you secure yourself when you're putting in DevOps pipeline? We are running in the cloud, correct? Or if you're running in the on-premises, even there's a chance of exposing that particular password during the pipeline logs, pipeline anywhere which is printing in, right? So that is where, for example, or you're doing any security assessment before it gets to you're doing a DevOps, you're building any kind of a configuration, or you're building any kind of image on top of that configuration, and we are trying to check there and then, instead of going to the production. Previously in monolithic, what happened, when you come to production release, the production server will be ready, and then security team will come and do the scanning of that particular server for any vulnerabilities. Now with this DevOps coming in place, we are into the container technology. What we're trying to do, we are trying to, before it gets to the production, not when going to the production and then doing the scanning and checks. No, before getting into the production, in between, yes, your development is completed. Now let's do the security scanning. Perform the vulnerability assessment, scan things, and then make it safer. Every organization has its own standard. The piece of code, even today, the open source codes, most of the time when we are doing a DevOps, we will be using most of the open source technologies. So that is where the security aspect comes into picture. Whether we are using the whatever the tools, open source tools which we are using, are in line with our security organization security standard requirements or not. That is where the DevSecOps comes in. Not only other aspects, we check the open source code vulnerabilities, and we check many other items during the DevSecOps. When it comes to DevSecOps, then you're doing all these checks, and then we are passing it on to the production. Now the production build is ready. Why we are saying why we need a security before the production, right? See, we will be in the container world. You may be running in this region, you may be running in that region, right? So as soon as you are moving around the, wherever your data centers around the globe, You cannot keep on going and checking the scanning these things whenever it is running on their regions. So beforehand, we should ensure that whatever we are trying to develop on the DevOps pipelines, and let it scanned and certified, then take it to the production, and you are production free. I mean, it is certified, and you are free hand. You have free hand to develop, deploy the production image to anywhere. That is how the DevSecOps catching up now. I think we already implemented. I have a self experience how to implement that in Azure DevOps. We are doing it. Definitely helps, for the organizations to speed up to the production deployments.
Yeah, thinking of this organization moving more towards the production and the deployment aspects, we always forget the fact that there was nothing called as dev test stage and deployment or the production environment earlier. And
Yeah.
I've heard from a lot of old folks in the industry. They have told me, like, do you know, Vishwas, we have even seen production breaking like every 30 seconds.
That
The vulnerable part of every technology, that was like, it used to break a lot. And even like when you see a lot of old folks who are coming up in the industry, they always say, break your system as soon as possible. Make that production go broken in such a way that like you will find an alternate solution for your architecture. That's how you evolved today. So I just wanted to understand, like, how are these aspects, like, there are, if you think of large scale deployment at a scale, there are hundreds and hundreds of commits which happen every single day.
Let's
And
see
a lot of the time,
again,
and a lot of the times
DevOps.
when you think of this kind of an environment, we don't understand the fact that it's complex. That's why it's breaking. So I just want you to make us understand, like, what is this approach that we are supposed to give when there is a broken system?
We call that as a A/B testing. You want to quickly deploy, and then let your, I think, a small amount of business people test it and break it, right? So that is how, give me a minute. When we talk about A/B testing, you want to deploy to, you have a B environment, the B version of your deployment, and let the sanity testing or functional testing done by your business users, or sometimes, the beta users. When you go to the Android or when you go to the Play Store, you will get these apps in beta mode. So you are eager to test, right? I am also one of the person when something come up as a beta. So definitely I try to check those features. So that is how, you go to the market and publish them for as a beta. That is called A/B, A/B deployments. And then see and fail. Then if it is successful, then we change the beta to alpha. It means it is a production environment. That is how it is a deployment strategy. What we are looking at. Most of the times, yes, we have failures. Definitely, we'll encounter failures when it comes to when you are doing multiple commits onto the production environments. That is where we have the rollback versions. It is not that easy to say unless it is the like a Netflix environment, or we call it as any other critical environment, which
chaos
the most
environment.
A chaos environment, right? So those kind of environments, definitely we need to have this kind of quickly deploy to the production, and let's fail quickly. That is where the DevOps is helping to the developers now. Even beforehand getting into production, they are doing their own changes. They can create their own branches, do their own development, do their own testing on their branches, then try to merge it, try to commit to the master branch, all the features. So that is where this DevOps is helping, to multiple teams to do these 1,000 commits. Some of the organizations, you see, previously what happens, they'll get together and then they will sit together and try to commit those changes. But now I think that is also not happening. Teams are independently handling those feature branches and committing to those master branches, which I feel that now, I mean, when I hear about the strategies which we discussed, in the community groups of different organizations, they're also moving towards this. That is how we handle there are multiple DevOps deployment strategies, right? So let's say you have a canary, I mean, for example, or a A/B testing. So that is what approach we are going to try and see whether this production promote is going to break or it's going to sustain. Yeah. These are the approaches we need to take when we are trying to implement the DevOps.
I know. Did you really hear the word called as DevOps when it came to the industry? Because I think this is a very
No.
recent buzzword that is popping up in the industry. No, it was
Yeah,
actually there, but now it's
it
hyped
was
up
there.
in such a way that it's a hope. You can't reject the fact
No.
that it's existing in your infrastructure. So yeah.
Yeah, we talked about containers. We talked about DevOps. I think for me, 5 years back, since 5 years back, it is not about DevOps. We talked about automation. You know, that is how all it started. Automating your few of your routine jobs, mundane jobs, right? Let's say as a SRE, right? Forget about the DevOps SRE. As SRE, what is my responsibility when I start my job? I need to see my systems are functioning well. There are no alerts. There are no any major or severe alerts which triggered, which I need to take care when as soon as I log in. So these are all the mundane jobs which we used to do. The rigorous checkout will be there, starting SOD jobs and then EOD jobs we used to do, right? So those things all we when we looked at it, why we need to still do these mundane jobs, manually. That is where the automation came into picture. We used to write some, if I remember, I used to write some cron jobs for cleaning up something in the early days. And we use there were some automation tools came up, to perform your jobs. And now in the monitoring systems, you can trigger your auto. If this is the alert, you do this. So that is how we started doing the automation. That's how the automation pace picked up. You do your action. If this is the reason, you do this action, and that is how the automation came into picture. And then DevOps. So you're doing some automation. If you're passing the gates, multiple gates, you have in the ops pipeline, you can put your gates, and then you can have your test plans, and then you can whether these gate has been passed, then move it to the next round. That is how I think 3-4 years back it's all started. Still it is catching up, but most of the organizations are looking now. DevOps is the way to go, which if you ask me.
Yeah.
Not only application side, I'm saying from all the ways.
Yeah.
You are a SecOps guy, you are you're the infra guy, or you are a developer, or you are a manager, technical manager or product manager, whomever it is, you should know, how DevOps works and how to, get into there and then start working with the everyone. Now that we call as a release manager. Now, if you talk about the DevOps, there are product owner, which owns the task there, in the DevOps. So as I said, in all my sessions, when I talk, my day in, day out goes by DevOps. Without touching the DevOps, either it could be application coding or it could be infrastructure coding, whatever it may say. And then containers, I think that is also there, so that quickly you can deploy your environment to a small piece of a container code and test it. And then you are fine with your changes, then move on to the next feature change. So that is how the developer is also happy today, with the DevOps.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because most of the time when we think DevOps, it's like more of like, what should we do on the board? What should we do on pipelines? What should we do on
Right.
this? But it's beyond it. It's not just like the tools which are available on the cloud. It's beyond it
No.
every single day. So, sir, last question. Since you learned the DevOps the very hard way, because nobody
Very hard
gives
way, yeah, true.
very hard way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we can really get to know that from your sessions, and we can really understand that, like, any tips and tricks for all the youngsters like me who are more enthusiastic about like ML ops, DevOps, and things like that.
I think to start the DevOps journey, I mean, we need to understand the container world, how it really works. If you talk about any cloud, they have their own strategy with the region availabilities. Previously, if you talk about our data centers before to the cloud journey, they were data center A, data center B, and data center C, which is 50-kilometer radius away or 50 miles away from our data center, in between the distance. The same concept, which is now, we don't need to get confused with that. Even if you talk about the Google data centers between the space, within the Mumbai, or if you talk about Azure within Chennai, I mean, they will maintain the same radius, for these data centers. So when we get into the DevOps and you're trying to start looking at things into the cloud, we need to see what is your there are many multiple tools which you will be coming up. If you are a developer guy and you want to do some development action, there are multiple tools when it comes to. As infrastructure guy, right now, uh, Ansible is the one, and then Terraform, which is catching up now, and also the Git compliant. You need to learn what is a Git. That is the basic funda, where quickly you will have any other enterprise, you will have the SCM, the source code management tool, right? So that is where you need to learn what is Git and how to commit the changes, how to pull the changes. This is the basic, I think. This is the basic. Any SRE, either you are a application developer or an infrastructure guy, you should know about Git, Git commands. And then once you have your source code available, on your local laptop where you're trying to develop things, right? And then you commit your codes, and then quickly when you commit from something, you need to have a pipeline where it can run your piece of code. It may be Python, it may be .NET, MVC code, or it could be anything. So how you want to, whatever the commands which you're going to place in our laptop when you are compiling things, the same thing we need to just look into DevOps. But as I said, there are many tools, to perform these kind of jobs. Jenkins is one of the one which is leading tool. Now Azure DevOps is taken over Jenkins. Circle CI is there. There are many other tools, but if you are familiar with any of these tools, then you are good enough. You can catch up quickly, even if you are going to a new organization where you don't have experience on these tools. Definitely, you'll be able to catch up. You don't need to get confused with that. You don't need to have that ambiguity. Once you are familiar with one of these tools and you know what is dev and ops, that is where it is easy to catch up. But at least have the experience of Jenkins and Azure DevOps. That is where it will be a good start if you are a beginner. And then look at some if most of the application you talk about, either it will be developed in Java or it will be developed in .NET application, right? Or now Python is also catching up, and the Go language, where most of the applications machine learning model which is coming into Go. If you are a developer, definitely you need to look into that aspects. Even I am learning Go recently now. I started looking into it. That is where the machine learning models which are coming up now. So DevOps it is not a scary thing. It is very easy. Once you started using it, definitely you will love it. You will have that speed. If you are a guy, you want to quickly develop things and try things and fail. That is where I started. That's how you need to. Most of the times you will not have this environment when you're trying to develop things. That is where the cloud comes into picture, and you develop your piece of code is developed, but where you test it and see whether it is really working or not, right? You don't have a 16 GB of RAM sitting in your laptop, for example, right? So these things definitely help for a developer, to have a free hand and quickly check their changes and then move on to the next, right?
Yeah,
that is how
that's true.
That is it is. So to start with DevOps, definitely Azure DevOps is the one you can pick it up, and then Jenkins. And the Kubernetes is the one which is the now leading model, the container model. You can learn there.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very brief understanding for all of us that you gave today for entering this DevOps world. Trust me, there are hundreds and hundreds of jargons which pop up. Don't get too fancy about it. Just go by the flow that you have. That's the best key that you have from this podcast. That's it. Don't get overwhelmed, because he learned the very hardest way, because there was nothing called as DevOps during his professional life. Everything was supposed to be written as a code, pushed somehow, managed it. Like, it was a chaos. And now seeing that, and now coming back to this DevOps, I think probably it's a cakewalk for him to just see all these new stuff coming up. So thank you so much, Mallikarjuna, sir, and our lovely Mallikarjuna Garu for giving this podcast.
Yeah. Most of the time, people, last week I had interaction. One of the colleague from Abu Dhabi, he's a good developer. He don't know how to frame the pipeline for DevOps. So that is where the trouble, I'm seeing now. They're not able to picture it when it comes to DevOps. How do I picture my pipeline? So that is where the challenge. Once you are there, once you know your piece of code, you know everything. But when it comes to DevOps, how do I put my pipeline so that I call that my, I have a full end-to-end DevOps pipeline. That is where the challenge, I think, that's what the people, the old monolithic people coming up to DevOps, right? That is where the challenge is being seen. Once you have the pipeline picture, then I'm also not enough for you. Then you will be a superhero because you are a good developer and you know DevOps. Then you are the hero.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
anytime, it was nice.